And we're about to go live.
Yeah, make sure you
Yeah, I'm live.
why is the mic?
Picking you up like that?
Okay.
Because you're live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're on. Oh.
Yeah.
We are live.
Right, we are live.
Okay.
Remember, it's 5. We had to start. We had to start now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, so we are starting now. Okay. Okay. All right.
Because there's something sticky all over it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why did you leave your fork on the buffet?
I'm sorry. For some reason I thought I needed a fork for a quesadilla.
Did you want to?
It was a dirty fork.
Yeah, I thought I was trying to cut. Yeah, that's okay. It's just going to remind people of the X button. That's
Okay, now I want to put this on here. Wait a minute. I can't put these on.
oh, I didn't even close the window, dude. We got to do a whole bunch of window management at this point because Dark Souls is still running. You just
Oh. Okay, now I need to put that PDF on live scene.
Okay, so if I remember correctly,
Or just put it on starting soon, since I really don't.
no, you want to put on live scene.
Alright.
Always put whatever your content is on your live scene.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're going to be doing is you're going to use a window capture. Essentially, you're going to open the PDF in another window with the PDF viewer. And then you're going to capture the PDF viewer window. Put that in live scene.
Alright.
I know it's complicated, it's stupid.
Oh.
You have to be able to bring in the PDF, but you have to be able to actually scroll through it and stuff, which OBS doesn't handle. So you have to use a PDF reader. You can also convert it into a PNG and use image capture.
That's ironic.
Not correct. It's why. So it shouldn't be open with open content. It should have its own little window. Like when I have PDF viewer. Okay, hold on. I might have to think. I actually install new software for this.
Yeah, they've been telling you to do that for quite a while now.
Well, no one has because I never read PDFs on here.
Alright.
But yeah, we just get the PDF reader so that we can have window capture.
You want to see something cool?
Hmm.
Look how clean Sam's phone is. Look at that gleam.
Yep.
Yeah,
If you have to restart this,
oh, it shouldn't need to restart. This is just a
Yeah, it
desktop
shouldn't.
client for reading PDFs.
There you go.
now you have to set in.
Now I have to go through stuff and stuff. I know.
All this because you're afraid of a little copyright strike.
Randy.
I know.
Copyright strikes are the mortal blow to your career.
True.
If you do not worry about them, they will kill your career dead. I would rather be afraid of them than arrogant. And there are a lot of people who do get away with that stuff, but they get away with it on YouTube, which has much more lax policies because they actually have agreements worked out with the publishing companies to use that music for that IP.
Near clean, you also have a minuscule scratch right about here, and it's a deep one. It's small, but really, really deep.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Still doing the
Brandon, can you hand me a couple of toothpicks, please?
you're live.
Toothpicks.
Waiting for you to talk to them, but that's okay.
I'm just trying to do stuff here. That's like asking the roadie to play the show from Metallica.
And Laura's be like, yeah, I'm okay with him phoning it.
No, don't mention his name. You'll that'll invoke
It's
copyright.
okay to mention. It's okay to mention people's names. You're afraid of the exact wrong things. It's all right to mention people's names. It's not okay to use their intellectual property. Well, I should say without express written consent from the parties involved. Because you can use whatever you want as long as you get permission first. That's the important.
Although those certainly were nice, crisp, clean screen grabs.
Yeah. Nice.
And actually, if people want to come into our Discord, they can see it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not really hurting anybody if they want to come into our Discord and see the screen grabs of what we got.
Yeah, those are just
Yeah.
screen grabs that are made for
Educational and informational purposes only.
Exactly.
okay. So if I've done this properly and not just absolutely bungled it. See if we need your desktop client. Oh, right, right. You should already see it. There we go. Okay, So you got this thing right here, right?
Yeah. Game capture. Yeah.
Or even capture this window. Nope. Okay, so whatever. Just gonna make that to remind us not to use that. These words. There you go.
And scale to, yeah.
Oh yeah. Here you go.
And here, this is for you. Change your diaper. I even have all these buttons for
There you go.
I know. All right. Okay, so everybody should be able to see the brackets that are up on the screen here. And I tell you what, I'm gonna go close up on this if I can. Let's see if I can.
Oh yeah. You should.
All right. So this is the east bracket here, and we'll set it back down to 250 here, 200. There we go. All right. So if I've done this right, yes, and I have. Okay. So we're looking at the east brackets here. And Sam's getting set up on his mic right now with his push to talk. And if you'd like to join us, we are at Twitter on @GovRocknar. And you can also find us on the Discord link below. And you can join us there. And we're going to be breaking down these brackets here. And we're going to see what our picks are going to be compared to Sam's and Chris's picks. All right. Sam's getting set up, I think. You had push to talk on, remember? Oh, that's right. Wait a minute. All this time. All right, transporter room. All right.
All right, we are good to go.
Yeah, I hear you now. Okay, that's much better. And we're waiting for.
I'm not getting it.
You're not? Oh, you've had enough
Yeah,
of.
Chris isn't a sports nerd.
Yeah, Chris has been kind of. Yeah, she wants a little break from the streaming here. So today we're going to be looking at the brackets here for the NCAA March Madness tournament. And we're going to take a look at the East Regional first. And you got Duke playing the winner of North Coastal Carolina, I think, or North Dakota State. I think, you know, doesn't matter who wins here. Duke is probably going to advance at least, you know, to the Sweet 16 on that. Question is VCU versus UCF. What do you think? That's a, you know, that they're as close as you can get on that, I think. I would go with VCU.
Well, I would go with VCU just off of rankings.
Mm-hmm.
I would need to know a little bit more about where the last, I would say 5 bouts for UCF went.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you're looking at VCU versus Duke, and I think if Zion Williamson is healthy, yeah, then Duke's definitely getting into the Sweet 16. After this week. But
Oh,
if VCU catches Zion Williamson napping, or if they figured out a way to trap him, I think that VCU could be one of those Cinderella teams that you see.
as far as the idea of Williamson, I mean, matter of fact, when he had that freak accident, I, th-
Oh,
I thought things
yeah.
were pretty much done after that. But he is so well conditioned,
Mm-hmm.
like outside of say combat submission wrestling, of the Metamoris match between uh, Bravo and Gracie comes to mind. And towards the end of that match, the way that Bravo was holding Gracie's knee out of plane reminded me a lot of how Zion Williamson fell after his sneaker disintegrated.
Oh, yeah. And if anybody deserves a number one seed in the East Regional, it's got to be Duke right there. So you're looking at Duke at least making it to the Sweet 16. Now we'll break down Mississippi State and Liberty. I think Mississippi State's obviously, given for that, but 5-12 matches right here are sometimes your throwaways, because sometimes the 12 will upset the 5. So I'd say I'm like 70% certain on Mississippi State, but it's a tough call. But I would go, Mississippi State on that 70%.
Mississippi State, I would also pick just because Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not a it's not anything I would consider a program or an institution in this sport. I mean, it's kind of like how my one semester at Murray made it,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody knew that Murray was getting knocked out the first round, and they did.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then you got Virginia Tech and St. Louis, and I think, well, I mean, Virginia Tech, I would say like 85% is going to the.
St. Louis has a secret weapon, though.
Oh yeah, St. Louis has Travis Ford coaching them, so. But that's that 15%, I think, that you got to watch out for in St. Louis. So. Mm-hmm. But your thoughts about Travis Ford coaching St. Louis?
As far as that goes, I hope for Coach Cal's sake that Virginia Tech knocks him out.
Oh, we don't have to worry about playing them for quite a few brackets at least. I mean, but moving on through the East brackets here, we got Maryland, and they're facing the Belmont Temple winner. And it'll probably be Maryland and Temple, I think. But Maryland, ooh, that could be a really interesting 6-11 match, especially if Temple, wins. That'll give them enough momentum, I think, to be ready for Maryland. So Maryland, I would almost rate like 60% chance of winning on that. It's a tough call, but it's almost like one of those rare games that it's going to be like really surprise for the ratings. It's going to be like a all out street fight.
Yeah, this is for sure going to be a shootout. I mean, you just have whoever's getting number 11,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to have a bit more experience on the court than Maryland. Maryland's just sitting back.
Right.
But whoever comes in, they're going to come in, they're already going to know, how hard they have to work in order to get those goals,
Mm-hmm.
in order to score those baskets.
Yeah, but Maryland gets a slight advantage also because they'll be able to watch the video from Belmont Temple, and they'll see what their opponent's doing right, what their opponent's doing wrong. So it's going to be an interesting match on that. And then you got LSU and Yale, and I'm rooting for Yale, but Florida beat LSU in the SEC tournament. I don't. LSU is only in this. This is probably going to be the last tournament for a while that they'll be in. They'll probably have to take like next year off because of the FBI thing that's going on with them.
Only 2 words: Go Tigers.
Then Louisville and Minnesota, and Minnesota is going to be the team that is looking to go back to Minnesota because that's where the Final Four is going to be. But they're going up against the Louisville Cardinals. I think Louisville's probably got about a 75% chance of winning on that. And Sam's getting set back up on his Discord app. I know.
I keep hitting that disconnect. Like my finger was on the opposite side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wait, yep, my finger looks like it's clear. Nothing's going to happen here. And then my thumb comes in, bumps the disconnect button.
Yep. That's his huge fingers for you on that. So I'm thinking Louisville's got like a 75% chance of winning here against Minnesota. But to see Minnesota beat Louisville would actually be a very nice game right there, and for them to catch Louisville napping. But I just think they're going to be a little bit outranked against Louisville. And then you got Michigan State and Bradley, and I think Michigan State's definitely got a shot of getting to the Sweet 16, and probably facing Maryland on that. That'll be an interesting 2-6 matchup to get to the Elite Eight and then the Final Four. But overall, I think you're looking at Maryland coming out of here, maybe with a scare against Temple, and then you got LSU, hopefully taking a loss to Yale. Louisville, we want to lose to Minnesota, and then Michigan State's probably going to make it to the Sweet 16 in a week or so here.
I mean, that's the thing. We want it that way, but as far as Louisville's program has had a bit, I don't want to say of a tumultuous period because they're under new leadership now, but I think they're having to adapt to doing things a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a new broom that's swept clean at Louisville, and finally they got rid of the stink of the old program. And not to berate Louisville, the university, because the university itself is a great university. They have a great athletics program. They were just letting bad people ruin their image.
Yeah, that's what it all comes down to, is you need to let people into the program who can.
Right.
Oh, speaking of my alma mater, let's break into this West bracket because I just saw.
Okay. All right. Yeah, Sam wants to go in the West bracket. Obviously I talk too much on this. So right away we got Gonzaga playing the winner of Farley Dickinson University versus Prairie View on that. And yeah, Gonzaga is likely going to be your Elite Eight contender at the very least, and with a very good shot of getting to the Final Four on that. So the real questions are going to be these games: Syracuse, Baylor. I think Syracuse is going to win, but they're going to really struggle to do it. And then if Syracuse wins, then they're just going to get flattened by Gonzaga, obviously.
I've seen the Razorbacks in their heyday. They are nothing to mess around with. Baylor is going to have a very tough fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Marquette versus Murray State. Marquette, that's the program up in Wisconsin, I know. That's where Chris Farley went to. He went to Marquette University. And Murray State, is that Murray State, Kentucky?
Yes, that is in Callaway County, Kentucky.
All right. which maybe Marquette's going to beat their butt. This is the beauty of the 512, brackets, and you just kind of have to think, it could go this way, it could go that way. So I mean, Murray State will probably give Marquette a very severe run for their money. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, Murray isn't as deep a pocket a program as University of Kentucky,
Mm-hmm.
but they have more than enough determination. And I know these guys, they have some of the most competitive people there. Like it is one of the harder environments to exist in. I don't know whether that's due to the student accommodations, although they do have a very nice gym.
Mm-hmm.
I will give that.
Oh yeah.
They know where to spend the money. The dorms are substandard, but the gym is pretty good.
Oh yeah. It has to be. Yeah. And then you got Florida State versus Vermont. And Florida State, I think, is not going to have any trouble against Vermont. I'd say Florida State is almost an 85%, maybe 90% chance of winning against Vermont for that.
Yeah, every
Yeah.
time you're talking about
Florida. Yeah.
the Atlantic North, all I can think about is just gangly dudes with long haircuts doing a lot of alcohol.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. One of the classes that you can take in Florida universities is fake ID manufacturing, I think. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that.
That's a felony.
I was making a joke. All right, so we're taking a little look at this Western bracket here, and we got Buffalo against Arizona State or St. John's, and Buffalo, I think, is probably going to have a tough time if they're playing against St. John's. I would almost put Buffalo as like the 60% chance of winning. Just I don't know if Buffalo winning against St. John's or Arizona State would be set in stone. I think it would be Buffalo St. John's more than anything.
Yeah, it's looking, I mean, in my mind, I can't really think of too much Arizona State's put on the court. St. John is a decent program. It's not really one I follow that much, but they should have the advantage in that matchup.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then we go to Texas Tech and Northern Kentucky. Yay, Northern Kentucky's back in it this year. I like that.
Yeah, we need Northern Kentucky in here
Yeah.
to remind people of what the other university programs in Kentucky play like.
Yeah, and I think it was like 2 years ago that Kentucky was playing Northern Kentucky in the regional, I think.
It's it was a while ago, but I do remember what you're talking about. It wasn't too tough of a game for the University of Kentucky, but Northern Kentucky puts up a great fight.
Oh, they do. And we were there at that KSR remote when they were saying Northern Kentucky deserves to be playing Kentucky and this. And
Oh, they have made great strides. I have seen
Yeah.
a lot of programs rest on their laurels and become, maybe double digit tier,
mm-hmm.
because they just want to keep doing the same old without any consideration to, you know, trying to keep the strategy new. You can have the best strategy in the world, but these games, you know, just because of the human element, there's always going to be that other dominant strategy, that or that what should I say? The counter strategy. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's not really a dominant strategy in basketball except shoot the ball, and you have to figure out how to do that to your own play style. Whereas in other games, it's a lot easier to fudge things, to know exactly where your, I guess, chips are going to lay.
Yeah. And
But in this ball game, I mean, people always want to talk about boxing and how that has a great opportunity for upset, but this bracket right here, outside of
The Midwest, we're, you know, good
yeah,
old Midwest here, and this is the bracket that we're worried about this team the most here in blue. And Kentucky versus Abilene Christian. Well, obviously you want to pick Kentucky on this, but I think Kentucky will win by 15 points. It just depends on who's going to have a good game that day. Is it going to be Tyler Hero, PJ Washington, Keldon Johnson?
I think that's the main thing that's been hurting Kentucky, especially in the regular season, is trying to find that one player counter strategy. It's like, as much as I appreciate the talent that's on the team now, I, you just can't carry a team like that. I mean, think about, let's see, before India picked up Virat Kohli, they had Sachin Tendulkar, one of the highest scoring players in the game, and he couldn't carry India, one of the best sides in the game,
Well,
because of the fact that there's that drive towards the star player, which drives other coaches to counter strategize against that player.
I tell you
So someone
who we got to watch out for though. Seton Hall.
Seton Hall is a monster.
Yeah.
Even when they get that low seed,
Mm-hmm.
it is just brutal to watch them play.
Yep. That we have already lost them to them once, and I think that they are going to demolish Wofford just so that they can have that shot against Kentucky.
They need to have that shot. If I'm going to be perfectly honest, we need to
And
prove every little bit that we have on that court.
I mean,
So that means having great opponents.
Kentucky, we could be talking, this time next week about, how Kentucky's season ended, with Seton Hall again. But
Hey, as far as I'm concerned, this is the postseason. We did well enough in the regular.
oh, I know. Well, yes, yes, that was the point of today's, Star Trek Online stream, was that, we were breaking this down in the most ridiculous way possible. But I think that, yeah, Kentucky's got to really watch out if Seton Hall wins. So yeah, we're almost to the end of this live stream anyway, but we just got another division to wrap up here. But you're talking to the next teams to worry about: Iowa State or Ohio State. Ohio State, I think you could probably look at as a Cinderella team on that. And Cinderella teams are, teams that kind of have a so-so season, but then they get to the invite to the tournament, and that's considered Cinderella going to the big dance on that, especially when they win against a higher seeded team on that. So I think Ohio State has a really good shot. I give Iowa State only a 50-50 shot of winning that game.
Yeah, it's a pretty close match.
Mhm.
I like Ohio State. I mean, that might just be my bias.
Yeah,
I mean, show me something in Iowa that's worth looking at, and maybe I'll
yeah. And if Ohio State makes it, I think that they'll definitely trounce on Houston. So you're looking at Ohio State is definitely a Sweet 16 kind of tournament team right there. So then you go up a little further here, and we're breaking down the SEC champion Auburn Tigers. Go Tigers for beating Tennessee today by
no,
20
no,
points.
that's LSU.
No,
It's weird because because Auburn has
Auburn is
Obby
the Tigers also.
yeah, they have Obby the Tiger, but their battle cry is War Eagle.
Oh, well, that's
Yeah, it's weird. It's a bit of the college tradition that not too many people even care about, but the slogan or motto or whatever you want to call it is War Eagle.
Okay, so go War Eagle. Yeah, War Eagle.
No,
Yeah.
just War Eagle. No, go War Eagle. Just War Eagle. Like seriously, they end valedictorian addresses with it. They end graduation speeches with it. It's everywhere on the campus.
War Eagle. Okay. Anyway, Auburn, SEC champion, for thank them for beating the Tennessee Volunteers, are going to play New Mexico State, and I think Auburn has probably about a 75% chance of winning on that. And then you got Kansas against Northeastern. Kansas, I think, is about another 75% chance of winning on there. So you got a really good Auburn Kansas potential matchup here.
I wouldn't rule out New Mexico State. I mean, just because they're not that good at, you know, other sports doesn't mean that they can't work a little bit of magic on the court now.
Right. And then you go up to the top of this bracket, and North Carolina is the number one seed. That if we make it to, the Elite Eight, or, our chance of getting to the Final Four, we will probably have to go through North Carolina to do that.
So we will definitely have to go through North Carolina unless there is a bracket buster in the upper.
But remember, we beat them. We beat the pants off them earlier this season. So I don't see how they could have made North Carolina the one seed except maybe sheer dumb luck. Did they win their conference, or was this an at-large bid?
It can also come down to who's more properly conditioned. Like that's the thing I noticed, is that Kentucky's performance trailed off a bit. And nothing against Kentucky. It's college I went to. It's one of the best campus I've ever enrolled in. But there are a lot of people either fatiguing or suffering sports injuries on that program. And North Carolina, they win, they lose, but they manage to keep more or less all their players up.
Yeah. And now we're going to the final half of the bracket here, and that's going to be the South Regional. And number one, Virginia against 16 Gardner Webb. Obviously, Virginia, you look to them to at least advance to the Sweet 16 on that. It's good for Gardner Webb for making it. Let's just hope that they can pull off that rare once in a lifetime 16-1 upset. But Virginia, I think, has got 95% chance of winning on that one.
Yeah, I'm looking at.
Thank you, Brack.
that.
Thank you, Brack. Thank you, Brack.
And I don't think I can see much going on here except in the other half of that Sweet 16 bracket with Wisconsin versus Oregon.
Yeah.
And I can see Wisconsin. I can see UC Irvine going against Power Cats, and I know my girlfriend's gonna slap me upside the head for that one. But I really do think UC Irvine has the edge over Kansas State.
Probably, yeah, I'd say probably two on that. Ole Miss against Oklahoma, that's going to be a close game. I think Ole Miss probably escapes with a win by 3 or 4 points.
Ole Miss is a great program. I think they'll be in for a rough fight. But yeah.
I think you disconnected again.
Oh, I must have let go of my push to talk too soon.
Yeah, you're fine. But yeah, I'll be rooting for Ole Miss for where Brandon's from, that area. So Wisconsin and Oregon, there's another 5-12 that could go really either way on that. And I don't know, could the Ducks of Oregon beat the Badgers of Wisconsin?
Oh no, Wisconsin has been doing really good. They've been making steady progress on the postseason for years upon years now. I mean,
Well, they're
there's
not
about
considered to be a one and done school. They're just kind of like, they focus on the long term rather than trying to develop kids to go into the NBA. Not that that's bad necessarily, because once the one and done is over with, and kids will be required to stay in at least 2 years before going into the NBA, you're still going to see, roughly the same teams, you know, on these brackets that have always been. You're still going to see schools that are focused on developing talent, not just for on the court, but for off the court as well. And I think giving kids an extra year in college actually helps solidify them a little bit more.
I would even go as far as to say you need that extra year of physical conditioning in
Mm-hmm.
order to make sure that your tendons do not rupture, because a lot of people don't think about the difference between the amateur and professional versions of the game. Amateur version of the game, you're playing for a lot shorter, for a lot lower point total, and you're generally not seeing as aggressive a defense.
Right. Yeah, you're seeing kind of a more relaxed, but you got to get them ready for that, 40 hours a day conditioning, that you're going
Yeah,
to be
you
doing
got
in
to
the NBA.
do your tendon stretches, you got to run, you got to do your static holds, you got to make sure that you can do a good high jump,
Yep.
just all that fun stuff. And it doesn't get any easier. You start out little kid and you go up to, maybe if you're lucky, you're tired by the time you're 30.
Yep.
And you need a lot of conditioning in that very short window of time, relatively speaking,
Mm-hmm.
to make it in the big leagues. And that's my fear with the one and done system. I'm not going to slag off Coach Kell about that, because he very obviously has something that works for his players that draws people into the program, and that is ultimately what you have to worry about. That's your number one concern, because if you don't have people coming into the program, you don't have people making money for the program, and ultimately the athletic directors and everybody else can't.
Cal doesn't seem. Cal's problem is not with the one and done system as a whole. What Cal can't work with is the kids who use one and done and they're not ready for it, and they think that they're one and dones, and then they're like, they slack off on that first year, and then they're not really ready, and then they realize, hey, look at Nick Richards. Remember, how hyped a couple of seasons ago we were for Nick Richards? We were watching him at Nick's house on that, and everybody was talking about how he was going to be a one and done, and he's still with Kentucky. It's because Nick Richards is, probably he's there at a level that'll get him definitely in the amateur leagues, but whether he'll make the big show or not, I don't know. But
You just gotta watch those knees
mm-hmm.
and make sure that your joints are nice and healthy,
Yeah.
because that's the one thing I worry about. You don't condition these guys, they're at increased risk for ACL rupture. They're at increased risk for whatever ankle
Bone
injuries they might.
injuries, yeah, all
Yeah.
kinds of bone injuries, stress fractures. They land on something the wrong way, or they have a collision.
Oh, generally on the court, unless you have slippery conditions, like, that's why they call the technical timeouts to clean the floors now, because that used to be a lot more common, due to just people sweating onto the parquet. And it's just unavoidable, even at the lowest levels of the game. But you just have to get used to the fact that, hey, there's going to be a wet spot there.
Yeah.
You either signal the ref for a technical timeout, or you keep going through. And a lot of people, for whatever reason, back in the day, because they didn't have the technical timeout rule, just kept playing through, and that's where your ACL ruptures came from, is them slipping.
Oh yeah, and you'd see those little kids. They'd hurry out onto the floor, and they'd be buffing the floor with a white towel, and they'd be running out and running back really quickly on that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
those guys have the most important job in the game, and I
mm-hmm.
salute them.
Yeah, and yeah, we're still thinking. You're still thinking UC Irvine's going to defeat Kansas. That
K State.
K-State.
Yeah,
Kansas
because
State.
if we
Yeah.
were talking about the
K-State.
Jayhawks, this would be a completely different story.
Yeah, because even though the Christina is from Kansas, she's not Rock Chalk Jayhawk. She's K-State. She's Power Cat on that. So I'm rooting for K-State. Just for I want Chris's team to win, obviously.
If I were gonna think about this with my heart, yeah, K State.
Hmm.
But I gotta think about it with my brain. So I say Irvine.
Well, if it comes down to Virginia and K-State, matchup here, I would want K-State to at least make it to the Elite Eight on
Oh,
that.
dude, if K State gets that far,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm gonna be sitting there like knock them dead,
Yeah.
because they have put up so much effort. Virginia more or less got in, so they've already done their thing.
Yeah.
But K State has so much to prove that if they prove me wrong, that would just be incredible.
And then we're breaking down this final half of the bracket here. We got Villanova against St. Mary's. St. Mary's, that's sister. No, that's Loyola. I'm thinking Loyola's not in it this year, but
Loyola is unfortunately unable to make it.
yeah, too bad. I actually, because of the Dilly Dilly guy from the Bud Light commercials.
I'm more a fan of the of Villanova because
Yeah.
they have such a I don't know, their play style. Every time I watch them against Kentucky,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, I want Kentucky to do well because that's where I went. That's where everyone in my family told me to go. I want them to do well. But Villanova just has this energy and this intensity that's very hard to match.
Mm-hmm. And I think Villanova, um, that's one particular matchup, the 2 and the 6 here, because you got Tennessee against Colgate, and that Colgate University, that is the same Colgate that was founded by the makers of Colgate way back like 150 years ago, wasn't it?
Thanks, Robert Barons,
Yeah.
for actually giving a crap about education.
Yeah.
To think Robert Barons back in the days of the Gilded Age have a lot more, I don't know, respect for the institutions of learning than most professors do nowadays. Then again, you just see the adjunct professorships rate rising. You'll understand why.
Oh yeah. So we got Villanova going against St. Mary's. I'd say Villanova's 85% chance of winning on that one. Purdue, Old Dominion. This is one that could probably go down to the wire on that, and I think Purdue wins it maybe in overtime.
Purdue, but only because I've been in Central Indiana and there ain't anything to do except play hoops.
Yeah, it's pretty much barren in Indiana. They don't even observe daylight savings time, or they try not to. So
To be fair, I used to try and carry water for daylight savings time, but now that I think about it, yeah, just
yeah.
we have street lamps. Most people aren't involved in the agricultural industry, which is why daylight savings time existed in the first place. And if you don't have people that you don't have a large amount of your population involved in the agricultural sector, what's the point?
Yeah, good point. So Cincinnati and Iowa, I think, is going to be a tough match. I think that Iowa might pull this upset here.
Iowa, Iowa is a great program. Cincinnati, I don't see so much. I mean, I love Cincinnati, the city. They're chilly. I could live without, but they have some pretty good nightlife and a rotating restaurant. But Iowa has ball game.
Yes, Iowa does have ball game on that. Cincinnati, all they got is chili.
I mean, I wouldn't be even that averse to it. Maybe if it were the original Lebanese style recipe, but they've modified it so much for the American audience that I can't get in.
Yeah. Um, and then Tennessee Colgate, I think, Tennessee's obviously easily Sweet 16 right there. So,
Balls are good. balls are better than they have any right to be,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just sad that my Aunt Laura ain't around to see the Vols
I
doing as well as they should have been doing while she was still around.
Okay, well, if Tennessee had won today, Tennessee would have been this number one seed right here, and then you have to ask yourself where would Tennessee have gone? Probably Midwest, back down here with Kentucky or something like that.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
would probably be in a different thing altogether.
It's weird. It's weird how they schedule these things and how they put this all together, and a lot that goes into this every year, just to you know just for this. Wait a minute, I can kick that down to 75. But yeah, you have been watching the Bracketology breakdown on KSR Fans Playing Star Trek Online, and I have been your host, Randolph Vance, and with me has been my co-host and sound engineer, Sam Studler, and you can find us on Discord at the link below. You can also message me on Twitter at GovRocknar. Find us at streamlabs.com/Randolph Vance. You can also find us on twitch.tv at twitch.tv/Governor Rocknar. And I think that this is going to be an interesting tournament. I don't know quite what surprises are going to be in store for whatever teams there are, but I think we're looking at a really good next 3 weeks here. What do you think?
I think we're in for some really interesting bracket busters, and I don't think the committee did half the job in selecting that they think they. I'm not casting aspersions on the committee. I just think that there were a lot of decisions there that could have been avoided with better matchmaking.
Oh yeah, there certainly were a lot of times that you're asking the committee, like, really, you're seating them really on that. And Kentucky getting a number 2 seed, I think, is a blessing in disguise, because we only have to go through North Carolina again, and we beat the pants off of them once already, and I think we'll definitely do that again. So, but yeah, thank everybody for watching, and we will see you this coming Saturday for KSR Fans Playing Star Trek Online, where we will play Star Trek Online again. But as it is, this has been the end of the Bracketology breakdown, and thank you all for watching.